On his best friend's wedding day, the best man, Elijah Cooper, is forced to confront a dark secret that will lead to a shocking act of betrayal, a murder that will forever alter the course of everyone involved. June 15, 2024, at Grand Oaks Wedding Venue, Atlanta, Georgia. The sound of wedding bells fills the air. A dream wedding is in full swing. Guests laugh and dance, and the love between Jaylen and Nia is palpable. But beneath the perfect surface, Elijah, standing in his tuxedo with a drink in hand, eyes fixed on Nia as she dances with her new husband. His face is stoic, a mixture of anger, sorrow, and jealousy etched into his features. The reception hall is filled with soft laughter, the clinking of glasses, and the hum of jazz music. Jaylen Carter and Nia Bennett are the center of attention, glowing with joy as they enjoy their wedding night. Elijah Cooper, the best man, stands like a ghost in the background, his smile tight, forced, as he watches the couple. His eyes follow Nia with a mixture of longing, pain, and anger. The wedding videographer zooms in on his face, looking dark, troubled eyes, an unspoken tension in his expression. What could be wrong with him? The videographer thought to himself. Elijah moves through the crowd, doing his best to look like he belongs, but each step is heavier than the last. He pauses by a window, staring out into the darkened night. The world outside feels far away, unreachable, as if he's suffocating under the weight of his own emotions. 5 years earlier, a humid summer night. Elijah and Nia are sitting on the porch of her childhood home. The sound of crickets fills the air, the glow of a distant streetlight flickering through the trees. Elijah's eyes are drawn to Nia, always had been, and his pulse quickens. He watches her laugh, her lips curling into a smile that feels like a drug he can't quit. Elijah's voice cracks as he whispers, "I've never stopped loving you, Nia." She freezes, the warmth between them shifting into something heavier. She turns to him, eyes wide with confusion, but there's something more there, a vulnerability. She reaches for his hand, holding it gently. I thought you knew," she says softly. "You were my best friend, Elijah. But I can't feel the way you feel." Elijah leans in, and before she can pull away, he kisses her. It's desperate. It's long. And when he pulls back, there's a shift in the air, an unspoken acknowledgement that the dynamic between them will never be the same again. Nia's eyes well with unshed tears, but she pulls back, shaking her head. "You deserve someone who can love you the way you need, Elijah." "I can't." Back to the present day. The night air was thick with a deep, suffocating stillness. The moon hung low, casting an eerie, almost mournful glow over the manicured garden of the wedding venue. The laughter from inside the reception hall felt distant, muffled, as though it belonged to another world entirely. A world where happiness was a given, and broken hearts were kept in the shadows, hidden from the prying eyes of the crowd. Elijah stood at the edge of the garden, staring out into the darkness, the weight of the night pressing heavily against his chest. His hands trembled slightly, his fingers brushing the edges of the glass in his hand. The champagne that had once brought him comfort now seemed like poison, sitting too heavily in his stomach. Every clink of the glass, every shout of laughter from the guests inside, seemed to echo in his ears, drowning out his thoughts and heightening the tension coiling within him.
If you're enjoying this gripping true crime story, don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button. Your support means everything to us, and it helps us know you're enjoying these deep, emotional, and suspense-filled stories. Now back to the video.
A cold, biting wind tugged at his jacket, the fabric rustling like the whispers of ghosts from the past. It sent a chill down his spine, but it wasn't the cold that was making his blood run cold. It was the suffocating grip of envy and regret that was tightening around his heart. He had been there for Nia, always there in the shadows, supporting her, loving her in ways she would never understand, or so he thought. He had sacrificed everything for her, for the hope that one day she would see him as more than just a friend, that she would understand the depths of his love. But instead, she had chosen him. Jaylen. He had watched her walk down the aisle to him, her face glowing with a joy that should have made Elijah happy for her. But instead, it had shattered something deep inside him. It was the final nail in the coffin of his own delusion, the dream that he could somehow come between them, the hope that maybe, just maybe, she would look at him the way she had once looked at him. But no. She had chosen Jaylen. And that choice had carved a hollow, jagged hole in his soul that he couldn't ignore. As Elijah stood there in the garden, staring into the darkness, the chaos of his thoughts began to churn like a storm. His breathing came faster, and the edges of his vision began to blur. He could feel the walls closing in. The stillness of the night felt unnatural now, oppressive, like the universe itself was waiting, holding its breath, for the inevitable. A soft voice broke through his thoughts. Nia. She appeared at the garden entrance, stepping slowly into the moonlight, her wedding dress trailing behind her like a whisper of silk. The dress glowed in the dim light, its white fabric luminous against the dark backdrop, a symbol of purity and hope. But to Elijah, it felt like a taunt, a mocking reminder of everything he couldn't have, everything he wasn't good enough for. Her eyes were searching, cautious as they landed on him. She didn't speak at first, just stood there in the doorway, her silhouette framed by the soft glow of the reception lights. Elijah! Her voice was soft, but there was an unmistakable note of concern that rang through it. She had always been able to read him, even when he thought he had hidden everything away. She could see through his mask of indifference, his carefully constructed walls. She always had. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he took a long sip from his glass, his fingers trembling slightly. The wine burned as it slid down his throat, but it did nothing to numb the storm building inside him. The storm that was threatening to burst free, to explode in ways he couldn't control. He had kept it all inside for so long. Finally, he turned to face her, and the world seemed to tilt on its axis. Nia's eyes widened, a flicker of unease passing over her features. She could see the change in him, the raw edge to his expression, the way his body had tensed. He was breaking. He was no longer the best man, the friend she had known for years. He had become something other. Elijah, what's going on? Her voice trembled, almost imperceptible, but it was there, cutting through the tension like a thin thread. Elijah took another step toward her, the cold air now prickling at his skin as if it too sensed the growing darkness. He could feel the pulse in his temples, the beat of his heart ringing in his ears. He couldn't breathe. You don't get it, Nia. You never did, he spat, his voice low, the words jagged and broken. I've stood by you for years. I've supported you. And you throw me away for him. For Jaylen. You think it doesn't hurt? You think I can just walk away like it's nothing? That I can just smile and clap for you and let you marry him? Nia's face paled. Her lips parted as if she wanted to respond, but no words came out. She took a small step back, her body instinctively trying to distance itself from the rawness in his tone. Elijah, please, she began, but he cut her off, his voice rising, the edges of his control unraveling like a thread being pulled too hard. No. You don't understand. I loved you, Nia. I always did. His voice cracked with a rawness that seemed to reverberate through the empty garden. But you didn't love me. You never did. And now you're his. You're his, and I'm just here, watching you slip further and further away, and there's nothing I can do about it. He was shaking now, his body trembling with a rage he had kept buried for so long. His mind was spiraling, thoughts bleeding into one another. Every second spent with Jaylen, every moment they had shared, every kiss, every touch, it all felt like a dagger lodged deep in his chest. His vision blurred. His thoughts were fragmented, scattered. He had lost her. Nia took another step back, her voice soft, but firm. Elijah, you need to let go. You need to let me go. I love Jaylen. I always will. Her words were the final spark. Elijah's entire body went rigid. His eyes went wide, pupils dilating as though something dark and dangerous had taken over. He reached out, his hand catching her wrist with a force that startled them both. His grip tightened, fingers digging into her skin, his breath ragged and uneven. "No," he growled through gritted teeth. "No. I can't let you go. Not like this. Not after everything we shared. You were mine, Nia. I was the one who was there. And you just threw me away. You don't get to do that." Her voice broke, panic rising in her chest as she struggled against his grip. "Elijah, please. Let me go." She pulled against him, but his strength was overwhelming. His grip was a vice, suffocating her, holding her in place. He stepped closer, his breath hot against her cheek as he leaned in, his voice a hoarse whisper. "You don't understand, Nia. I never let you go. And now you're going to see what happens when I lose everything." And in that moment, Nia's eyes widened, her entire being consumed by a sense of cold realization. Elijah wasn't the man she had once known. He wasn't the man who had always supported her. He was a stranger now, a stranger with nothing left to lose. She tried to scream, to call for help, but Elijah's hand shot up, slamming against her chest with force. Her body stumbled back, her feet catching on the uneven stones beneath her. For a heartbeat, she was suspended in the air, her eyes wide with terror. But then, she hit the ground. The world seemed to stop. The sounds of the garden, the faint music from inside, all fell silent, as though the universe had paused in disbelief. Elijah stood frozen, staring at her motionless form. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat a cruel reminder of what he had done. Elijah's fingers tighten around his glass as he watches Nia and Jaylen dance. The world around him blurs. His mind races with thoughts, memories, of everything he could have had. He imagines Jaylen's hand around Nia's waist, holding her close, while his own hands ache with the memory of touching her, of knowing she had been his for a moment. The camera tightens on Elijah's face, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. The longer he watches, the more he feels like he's losing control. He moves outside to the garden, seeking a moment of peace, but the storm in his chest only intensifies. Nia steps outside, looking for Elijah, sensing the shift in energy. She finds him standing alone in the moonlight, his back to her, his posture rigid, as though he's holding something inside. "Nia!" Elijah's voice is barely a whisper, his name for her tinged with both affection and bitterness. He turns slowly, his eyes darker than they were before. "Are you okay?" Nia asks softly, her eyes searching his face for signs of distress. Elijah forces a smile, but it's hollow. "I'm fine. Just needed some air." There's a moment of silence. Then, Nia's voice softens. "Elijah, we can talk. I don't want you to feel." But before she can finish, Elijah steps closer, his voice low, almost trembling. "No, Nia. I don't think you get it. You don't understand what it feels like to watch the woman you love walk away, to see her choose someone else." Nia's eyes widen, the realization hitting her like a slap to the face. Her breath hitches. "Elijah! Do you remember that night, Nia?" His voice cracks. "That night on the porch? When we kissed, when I told you I loved you. You can't just forget that. You can't forget us." Tears well up in Nia's eyes. "I didn't forget. But it wasn't meant to be, Elijah. You know that." But Elijah's mind races, pushing him further into a corner. The words tumble out of him like a dam breaking. "I never stopped loving you. I was there for you when he wasn't. And now, you're with him. You're his and I." "You need to let me go, Elijah," Nia interrupts, her voice shaking. "I can't be with you. I can't love you the way you want me to. I love Jaylen. And I." Before she can finish, Elijah snaps. His hands grip her shoulders tightly, his fingers digging into her skin as if trying to hold on to something that was already slipping through his fingers. Let go of me. Nia gasps, trying to break free from his grip. And then, something in Elijah breaks. He shoves her back with such force that she stumbles, her feet catching on the uneven stones. Nia's body falls to the ground with a sickening thud. The silence is deafening. Elijah stands frozen, his heart pounding in his ears. He turns toward Jaylen, who has emerged from the shadows, looking horrified. But it's too late. Nia lies motionless on the ground, a pool of blood slowly spreading beneath her head. Elijah's mind races as the darkness closes in. He doesn't register the panic in Jaylen's voice as Jaylen kneels next to Nia, desperately shaking her, pleading for her to wake up. Elijah is lost, a man haunted by rage and regret, the weight of his actions crushing him. He turns, barely aware of Jaylen's desperate cries. His own breathing is erratic, and he stumbles back toward the ballroom, barely able to see through the tears clouding his eyes. Jaylen is desperately attempting to revive Nia. His voice cracks as he screams her name, but Nia remains silent, her body cold. The blood from her head forms a slow, tragic pool on the garden floor. The police arrive within minutes, their flashing sirens cutting through the night. Elijah is handcuffed, his eyes wide with disbelief, still shaking as if in a nightmare. He's placed in the back of a squad car. As they drive him to the station, he stares out the window blankly. His hands are cold, his body trembling, but his mind refuses to accept what he's done. He feels like a ghost in his own skin. At the station, Tasha is in a state of shock. She recounts the events in a shaky voice, detailing the escalating tension between Elijah and Jaylen. Her words drip with guilt as she explains how she had warned Nia about Elijah's unresolved feelings. But she never imagined it would come to this. The courtroom is packed with people. Family, friends, and onlookers. The air is thick with tension as Elijah takes the stand. He looks like a man broken. His hands are clasped in front of him, his head lowered, unable to meet anyone's eyes. The jury watches him intently. The prosecution presents their case, outlining Elijah's jealousy, his obsession with Nia, and the tragic events that unfolded that night. They paint him as a man unable to control his emotions, consumed by rage and unrequited love. But the defense offers a different narrative. They argue that Elijah didn't mean to kill Nia, that it was an accident, a moment of madness triggered by years of suppressed feelings. His lawyer calls him a man who lost his grip on reality, not a cold-blooded murderer. The police arrive within minutes, their flashing sirens cutting through the night. Elijah is handcuffed, his eyes wide with disbelief, still shaking as if in a nightmare. He's placed in the back of a squad car. As they drive him to the station, he stares out the window blankly. His hands are cold, his body trembling, but his mind refuses to accept what he's done. He feels like a ghost in his own skin. At the station, Tasha is in a state of shock. She recounts the events in a shaky voice, detailing the escalating tension between Elijah and Jaylen. Her words drip with guilt as she explains how she had warned Nia about Elijah's unresolved feelings. But she never imagined it would come to this. Jaylen's voice trembles as he takes the stand. He speaks of his love for Nia, his devastation at losing her, and his anguish over what Elijah has done. There is no anger in his voice, only sorrow. "I loved Nia," Jaylen says, his voice thick with emotion. "But Elijah was my brother. He was my friend. And I don't understand what happened that night. I don't know what drove him to this, but I know that he is hurting too." The jury is moved, many of them wiping tears from their eyes as they process the emotional weight of the trial. After a long deliberation, the jury returns. The room is silent. The judge announces the verdict. Guilty of second-degree murder. Elijah's face pales, the reality sinking in. He's been sentenced to 25 years in prison. The camera lingers on his expression. Disbelief, regret, and something deeper, more haunting. A lifetime of consequences for a moment of passion. Prison. 2026. Elijah sits in his small prison cell, the walls closing in around him. His hair is longer, his face gaunt. He writes a letter, his hand shaking as he spills his regret onto the paper. I destroyed everything. I thought love was something you could possess, something you could force. But love doesn't work that way. I was wrong. I was so wrong. And now, all I have is time to reflect on what I've lost. I will never be free of this guilt. But I hope one day I can find some form of peace. Please forgive me, Nia. I love you to death. I thought love is pain, but possession only leads to loss.
If you enjoyed this gripping true crime story, don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button. Your support means everything to us, and it helps us know you're enjoying these deep, emotional, and suspense-filled stories. Subscribing not only helps you stay up to date with all the latest content but also shows us that you're here for more true crime thrillers. So go ahead, hit subscribe and join the community. Your support goes a long way in making this channel grow. Let's keep exploring these dark, twisted stories together.